This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. When you look at this Browns team going into week 1, do you get the sense that the fan base has forgotten who actually plays for the team? Because I think they just need one clip of Myles Garrett going out there to be like, oh yeah, defense gonna be good.
Oh, this is why we're excited about the season. This right here. I do. I think it's the uncertainty around Deshaun Watson. To be honest, I really do think that's driving this kind of haze in the fan base, because people don't know how to feel. Do they get excited? Because there was excitement last year and then he got hurt, but people let themselves get excited about him coming back from that suspension, and then he got hurt, and then they got excited about Joe Flacco in the season. But even before he got hurt for that season-ending injury, they were trying to get excited about something. They were chanting DTR when Deshaun was playing bad, which is a whole nother story. But I think that right now it's that desire to want to be excited about Deshaun Watson, the hesitancy of the past 2 years only getting 6 games in each season out of him, and hoping that this revamped offense with Ken Dorsey going out and getting Jerry Jeudy, who was a guy that could have a huge high ceiling here in Cleveland, but also has uncertainty. You know, he's got all this potential. He had all this potential in Denver and wasn't able to put it on the field in the way that we think that he can. And I think all of these question marks and the shroud of hesitancy around excitement has created the weird vibes that you're kind of feeling. But once they get out there, I have no doubt in my mind that the defense will be the defense. I really am confident in it, and maybe that's on me. Maybe that's a mistake on my end. Maybe I should have that haze that they fans have, but they've returned their core. They've got Myles Garrett. They've got guys that are coming into their own in ways that are really impressive. You know, MJ Emerson is a standout. What he has become already and where he could go is something to get excited about. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah coming into his own and figuring out how to play the way that he has, and having, albeit, you know, coming in as an alternate, he made the Pro Bowl, and that was his goal, and he did it. And the way that they've tackled these things and grown, you've got stars, you've got supporting cast, you've got rising stars. And so the defense, to me, and you've got Jim Schwartz, who I am very, very confident in as a defensive coordinator. I don't know how you can't be. I think that he's just going to be like a stalwart of the Browns' success. Like he will be a guy that is just, you know what you're getting, you got it, it's consistent.
The more I think about it,
I think it'll be good. No, you're good.
Bad.
I was just reiterating.
But the more I think about it, I think the Browns as a team are kind of a example of how far bad messaging can get you, as far as like the perception of a team goes, because a lot of the like popular talking points nationally and even locally about the Browns, I feel like don't hold up under like further scrutiny, but they do hold up on a tweet, right? They do hold up on a quick like little gotcha if you're just talking about sports casually, because you can be like, oh, the Browns' road defense was terrible last year. Now, the context in that is that the Browns gave up turnovers on offense at a much higher clip on offense on the road. And also, this defense was injured significantly more when they played more of their road games in the second half of this season, which affected it. If you look at the before week 10 split to after week 10 split, it is significant how much worse the defense got. And it's because you were down to Ronnie Hickman, and like DeAnthony Bell was out there giving you serious snaps, and you had a bunch of like small injuries lingering on the defensive line. Obo got out for the rest of the year. Maurice Hurst went out for the rest of the year. Like, it wasn't Myles Garrett that went down. So we don't think about the defense getting injured the same way we think about the offense, because you lost your quarterback, you lost your running back, and all of these things. that are just these big blows, but those small cuts, right? Lon Thornhill injured for most of the year, look significantly different from like week 3 on because he hurt his foot, I believe. Grant Delpit in and out the lineup. Denzel Ward was in and out the lineup consistently. Same thing with not Jerome Ford, Greg Newsome. And I think those things, if you're a Browns fan, you look back, you think of the last 5 times you watched the Browns play, the 3 preseason games, the 1 divisional game, and the Cincinnati game. And honestly, like for the most part, what you remember is the defense was a little bit disappointing compared to what you saw at the beginning of the year. And then you see people push out these stats, and it makes you actually think that the defense was fraudulent. But the truth is, when this defense was healthy, we were talking about them being better than like the 85 Bears. And the reason I think that defense can translate over, I think, is simple. What they did last year was not complicated. If it was about scheme on why they were able to win, it would have got figured out in 2 weeks. It's pretty simple what they were doing. Our guys are bigger and stronger and faster than your guys, right? We can run man. We got Myles Garrett, you don't. Basically, that's the game plan. We got Myles, you don't. We're going to let these quarters sit on the island because you're not going to get past your first or second read. Like, you're not even going to dare to hold that ball to try to get a double move. And I think the one team that was able to hold that ball, get that double move, CJ Stroud did a great job staying in there. And then Laramie Tunsil had a great game against Myles Garrett. But that's not going to be 17 teams that are going to be able to have that performance stacked on top of that good of a left tackle performance, stacked on top of like bad secondary performance by the Cleveland Browns. Like, it's just not going to happen that often. So I think that's a part of it. And then like with the Watson stuff, when you watch the Watson games from last year, you walk away thinking, oh, he wasn't bad. What are people talking about? When you look at the stats that are produced in that split, because he came in and out the lineup, and he was start stop. I think he played 3 games, sat out, played a quarter, was awful in that quarter, got out, came back, played 2 games, was pretty good in 2 games. Like, it kind of skews with the data in a bad way. And then like 2 of those games, so we're talking about a significant portion of that sample, the game was over by the 3rd quarter. In Arizona and Tennessee, partly due to what Deshaun Watson was doing in the 4th quarter of that game. And that does not show up well in the stat sheet. So you can post around ample stats about Deshaun Watson and what he's done when he's been in and out this lineup for the last 2 years, right? The 6 games last year, the year before, the 6 games this year. Was it 6? No, it was 5. 5 games, 4 starts, really. Again, this weird sample that you're bringing up with Deshaun, and that produces a lot of passable stats where you're like, oh, he was the worst quarterback in QBR and all of this. And it makes all of the negative things about your team, or not even the negative things, it makes it so that the negative argument about your team is a lot more shareable than the positive one, because the only reply I can have to that is, you got to watch the games, man. Like, he wasn't that bad, but that's not shareable on social media. That's not like gonna move the needle from a mass marketing standpoint. And with the defense, you heard how long I had to explain what happened with that defense. Nobody's listening to that point on Twitter. Like, you're not gonna, oh yeah, well, he's actually right about that. No, they're just gonna go, oh no, the CBS put up a graphic that said we was cheeks when the defense was on the road, and that's going to be what people think. And I think that's really a huge part of it, is that they had a couple of really unfortunate stats that were super shareable go out there, and that's really painted people's perception. And I just think people need to see this team play again to be like, oh man, I was tripping.
No, wait a minute. Yeah, they were good. They were good. They were good, and they're going to be good again. I think that's absolutely fair. And it's hard. The Browns have notoriously gotten, the short end of the stick in how people receive them and how they're talked about. And so I think that it will take them playing well, going out there week 1. Maybe both sides of the ball look great, and that's the ideal reality of it, right? Is that Watson might take a couple series to kind of get it together, but maybe he comes out there and it clicks and he's feeling himself. And I think in those moments, that's why week 1 to me is like, it's really crucial, because it's a tough matchup. The Cowboys are a tough team. Having Deron Bland out, I think, is a nice little thing for the Browns to kind of enter that game with. They've got a star Cowboy that won't be playing them, which is something that you kind of got to take advantage of why you have it. But the Cowboys are not a team that is going to come into Cleveland and just roll over. It's going to be a tough game for them. And I think if they can put that together, not only obviously do you want to win week one at home, but I think that's huge for the perception of the team and how they perceive themselves and how the energy that they carry into the season plays out. I don't think that if they lost, it would be season over.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not a must-win game. I don't believe in anything like that. But I think that it can change the energy that you continue into the early part of your schedule with, and you have to build momentum. You do. It's like that's one of those intangible things that like it's not real, but it's real. If you go out and you show up and you feel yourself and you're looking good, you're flashing, and you can shut people up who have been doubting you, and you can prove a point that you have put the work in and you're ready to do this. I think that changes how you enter week two and then week three, and then you build the momentum into those games, and then you get Nick Chubb back, and then you build the momentum there, and then there are so many milestones. Then you're playing in prime time. Then you're playing your division games. There are so
Mm-hmm.
many opportunities for this to roll throughout the season. I love the Browns schedule compared to last year. It's a million times better. They've got a good location bye week. They have got the prime time at the end, the stretch, that's tough. But the fact that they've got them and they've got these division games, and they're not all front loaded like they were last year, just back to back to back, and it kind of sets a precedent that you can't really plan for. This schedule has set them up for the ability to move momentum, and I think that's going to be huge. So week one, if they're not already, which they are, they've got to go into this game looking to prove people wrong. You've got to have that kind of motivation. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
have the understanding that even Browns fans aren't super high on the team right now in compare, like, hype wise. Browns fans will always love their Browns and they're always fully supportive. But the energy surrounding it, it's not this false excitement. It's I want to see what this team does. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you've got that, again, like you want to prove to your Browns fans that there's a reason that they're supporting you and they're cheering for you, and they don't need to be concerned. And you want to prove to the people who said you couldn't do it and said you were a fluke last year and you got lucky and you had some breaks and Joe Flacco saved your season. You want to prove that wrong. You want to show what you can do, and I think that all comes together week one, and that makes this an even bigger game. So be flashy, put it out there. No more vanilla in week one. You gotta put it out there and really, you know, tell them who you are and show them
Mm-hmm.
who you are. And I think that will change every bit of energy that we're feeling right now and questioning.
I feel like on the topic of like the messaging versus like what's actually going on with the player, Jerome Ford's another example of somebody who might be a victim of some bad stats going around that don't necessarily tell the full story of what he did last season.
Mhm.
Because you hear Jerome Ford, most people bring up that he was the most tackled behind the line of scrimmage running back in the NFL. Kind of matters that Garyon Christian and James Hudson were in there from what week 13 on, and you were kind of a predictable run set there where it's like it was obvious rundown situations that you were coming out of. A lot of those negative yardage runs also came in situations where the Browns were up by multiple scores and just trying to kill the clock. So it's like they got 12 people in the box, it feels like. So it's not set up for him to have success. It's just there to kind of punt the ball. And then I look at some other numbers with Jerome Ford from week 13 on as a receiver. He's pretty impressive. Like David Njoku broke 8 tackles at the reception. He broke 6, which is pretty impressive. And you look at missed tackles. He was up there above, guys that we all think are hard to tackle. Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco. He had more missed tackles last year, forced missed tackles than those guys. He had more 10 plus yard runs than somebody like Derrick Henry. He was in the top 13 in the NFL in that category, which isn't like elite, but it's pretty good
It's good.
for a backup running back, right? And I think some of these stats not being out there as much as these other stats, the negative ones with Jerome Ford, has painted this kind of unfair picture where I hear people like, oh, he's going to get cut or something like that. And I'm like, no, I think the Browns are pretty high on what Jerome Ford can offer. And I think it shows because it seems clear to me. If somebody's getting 15 carries week one, he's the running back that's getting 15 carries.
Yeah, I think that the Browns are absolutely. They are big fans of Jerome Ford. They're appreciative and they're proud of him for what he was able to accomplish without Nick Chubb in there, right? And just being
Hmm.
thrust into that role. Those are big shoes to fill. And he is, he's not Nick Chubb, and he will be the first to admit it. He is not Nick Chubb. Nobody is Nick Chubb. But for him to go out there and build what his skill set is too, and build upon it. You saw him grow last year. You saw him make some smart cuts and carry guys on him and and push through contact. That is something that is difficult for anyone, let alone someone with the pressure of being RB1 minus a Nick Chubb. And then, not to mention, like you said, the offensive line. When you don't have the same blocking abilities on the offensive line, your run game will suffer. But Jerome Ford carried it in a way that it was able to continue and it was alive and they found success here and there. Maybe it wasn't the way that we all thought it was going to look and it wasn't as strong as if Nick Chubb was in there, but he held that position down really well. And the
Hmm.
Browns know that, there's not he was not a guy that was like, oh, is he fighting for a spot on the roster? They love what Jerome Ford was able to grow into, and to have him as a guy that's there, ready until Nick Chubb is back, and then you have him as RB2, and you can figure out ways to utilize the two of them together. I think that's like very enticing for the Browns. It is something. It's not the same as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt when they were excited to call him Thunder and Lightning. I think they're still looking for that mix of how to play their running like the running RB1 and RB2 together and
Hmm.
complement. And I think there's a lot of promise in what they can do with Jerome Ford once Nick Chubb is back. But he was a guy that everybody in that building was thankful for, grateful for, and impressed by. You can't deny you can try using stats, I'm sure, but yeah, you can't deny what he was able to do, and he did more than I think a lot of people gave him credit to be able to do, which is something that people should be talking about more.
Yeah, like that Jets game. Like it's almost like he didn't exist in that game and he was responsible for two touchdowns in that game. Like the way you hear people talk about it, it's like, oh, David and Njoku in the first quarter and then Joe Flacco for the rest of the game. I'm like, that was a excellent game from Jerome Ford. I believe he had what 5 yards of carry on 15 carries and was gashing guys for like 10 yards a pop pretty much. Whenever he got decent blocking, that was the one game he got good run blocking at the end of last year, and then he was pretty effective as a receiver out the backfield. I mean, when you got Deshaun Watson, he's going to be doing his thing. Look at what he was able to do with Duke Johnson back in Houston, and then think about what he's going to be able to do with Jerome Ford. And the most underrated thing about a running back, that kid can pass protect, right? Like Jerome Ford, he's the best pass protector on the team. I think they're very confident with his ability to pass protect, not just like as a traditional running back out there, but even if he has to do a chip off the line of scrimmage
Mm-hmm.
or like trap somebody because you want to like get a quick carry to Deontay Foreman or you want to do a design run with Watson, they feel really comfortable with him being able to do those things. And I think he is on my list of players that like the internet is not as high on them as the team is. Do you think David Bell is somebody who makes that list there? Because had a strong end to last year. He was pretty reliable for the Browns last year as a receiver, especially shorthanded. He had like what a 60% first down percentage on all of his targets, which was only second, I believe, to like Amari Cooper. Do you think that they feel like there's more out of him than what people kind of assume? Or do you think that he's somebody who's truly on the bubble because of all the injuries and the slowdowns that he's had in his career?
I think he is on the bubble. I think they really like him. Obviously, they've poured in a lot to him, and they like what he's been able to develop positively. But there is a lot more for him to put out there, and I think he becomes on the bubble when you look at how we go back to the roster construction and what they're going to do, which positions they're going to go heavy on, and they have added, I think, a lot of different guys with a lot of different skill sets. And what makes him, to me, more on the bubble than he might have been before is how high they are on Jamari Thrash.
Mm.
I think that he has become a camp darling, but like a team darling too. He provides a lot of versatility in what kind of passes you can get to him. He can be a burner. He's quick. You can throw him in the slot. He's elusive. He's a splash play guy, which I think is huge. And they love his work ethic. And not to say that David Bell doesn't have great work ethic, because that's not the case. He absolutely does. But Jamari Thrash has been such a standout that I think, to me, David Bell becomes more on the bubble, just depending on how many receivers you're going to keep, because you've got a room full of guys. You've got, obviously, your starters in Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy, and then you've got Elijah Moore. You've got Cedric Tillman, who's having a huge camp, and I'm expecting him to kind of come into his own this year a lot more than last year. And then you go down the list and you're looking at guys and you're like, okay, well, David Bell's among those guys. Michael Woods has had a strong camp and they liked him too, and he seemed like he had potential, but then he has that injury, and then you've got to figure out where he goes with that. And then you've got Jamari Thrash, and there's Jalen Darden. Like, you've got practice squad guys and you've got bubble guys, and I think David Bell, being a very draft pick, makes him a little closer off of the bubble. But the guys that are coming in here with the talent and showing up and impressing puts him, to me, in that realm of he could find himself on that fringe, on that bubble, and he might lose a spot on this roster. Like, that's the reality of it. And it's nothing against David Bell. Great guy, great, like a really good player, potentially, just needs some more. You just need to see some more
Hmm.
from him. And maybe it's the opportunity, maybe it's the availability and the health, but there are other guys that are fighting for a roster spot, and that's the one position that I was looking for with the standout with Jamari Thrash. I mean, it's not like he was ever a shoo-in to make this roster, but I think that he's one of those guys that if anyone is going to be the unexpected player to make the 53 in the tough position that the Browns are in, and filling that and figuring out where guys are going to go, I think Jamari is that guy, which then puts David Bell on the bubble. But it would be nice if he wasn't, because I don't like to think that we saw the last of David Bell in the Browns. I don't like to think that at all, but it is something that there's the potential that it maybe he doesn't make this roster, just because of how loaded they are, talented across the board, and how many people have stood out in that position group realistically.
It's going to be interesting to see who they keep on. I mean, every time I've seen Jamari Thrash, he's been pretty impressive. I got to actually see him when he was at Georgia State randomly. I went to a game down there. And I remember thinking, man, that number one's good down there. And then I see him at the Senior Bowl. I don't even realize that's the same, because he got the Louisville helmet on, right? So I'm not even thinking about that being the same dude that I saw. And then he's looking pretty good at the Senior Bowl. And then I watched like Steve Smith talk about his Georgia State time. I'm like, ain't no way that's the dude. And then he's showing the Georgia Southern game now. I was like, oh, that's the dude. Yeah, he's good. Like, in the quarterback play he had was not great that year at Georgia State. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch that one. The one question I have is about punt returner. Who would you bet on being the punt returner week one? Do you think that guy's like here?
Yeah, I think he's here, and maybe does that mean that he's played yet? No. Like, it could
Mm,
be, like, again, we talk about like special teams, right? And Naheem Hines is a strong returner. Have they played him at that? They haven't been able to check and see what he's been able to do. It's hard, but I think that he's on the roster.
mm,
I think that, and they've had such a high rotate, because they're like between punt and kick returns, that they're working through guys and seeing who's who they've got, what they can do, and the rotation has been pretty deep. They've been trying a bunch of different guys, and so I think that there's enough people on this roster that could do it, that they wouldn't need to go out of their way to find somebody else. But then you do those are the players that do find themselves off of other rosters, that they are, like the guys that, once these 53s get cut down and the guys are in the void, and they're free agents, they're on the waiver wires, and the Browns are looking to see what the other teams let go of. Would it surprise me if they found somebody who they're more confident in, or they think could be a splashy guy, and they brought them on and they did that? It wouldn't surprise me, but I think there are enough players that they've been working in all return areas that whoever it is on this roster for sure.
Now, one thing I look for every team is momentum changers, right? Things that they can get back that would be a momentum changer. I really think people have under like not by like doing it on purpose. We all know that Nick Chubb is very important to the team, but it's kind of hard to really know unless you're watching Nick Chubb play football. Like you kind of just go and like, oh, it's a running back, and yeah, he's this and that. And like I went back and I watched those games where he's playing. I'm like, oh my god, night and day. Like you could just tell how different the team is when Nick Chubb is there and when he's not there. It's a huge difference. And I see Nick Chubb coming back as a net positive for this team. Like it does not, it stinks that he's not there week one. But what is there is the possibility of, hey, if you do struggle a little early and maybe you're not, undefeated or a one loss team or something like you hope you could be in the first 6 games, and you're more close to 500 and things don't feel great, what's going to change? How like the energy change in the building could be? Oh, we get Nick Chubb back, right? Like
Yep.
that feels like something that could be or a boost where it's like, hey, we've already played well. Nick Chubb's coming in. It's going to be even better. So just from what you've experienced with like Nick Chubb, just his presence being there now since he's back in the building kind of full time, what do you think the impact of Chubb is going to be, not just on the field, but just for them knowing, hey, Chubb is going to be back at some point this season for this team and for the morale of them when they're out there during the dog days of the season?
It's massive. It truly is something that you can't. It's so understated. You cannot overstate it. Nick
Mm-hmm.
Chubb is the heart of this team. Everybody in that locker room loves Nick Chubb. They respect Nick Chubb. They want to, embody the work ethic of Nick Chubb. If you ask, like Kevin Stefanski is not a coach that's going to give you a lot. He will give you very coach speak answers, and that's just the reality of it. And in that coach speak talk, he doesn't like to he doesn't like to single out any individual player
Mm-hmm.
in any regard, except for when you ask him who his favorite player is. He will tell you Nick Chubb every single time. He will say and mean it. He wishes he had a team full of 53 Nick Chubbs because this is the guy that this organization is all about. From the fan base to the front office to the players and the coaches, Nick Chubb is a guy that you cannot replace, and you can't even come close to it. And so I think that having him back there, it was you saw the energy in the stadium last year when in that Jets game when he smashed the guitar, and then that you got to give credit to the team obviously, but I think a big part of that, the energy that allowed them to go out there and clinch the playoffs, is having Nick Chubb in the building. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
really truly changes a lot. It changes it externally from the fan base and the energy they provide, and therefore then you got your team to feed off of it. But at practice, what has really stood out to me is not just how the team responds to Nick Chubb, because they always gravitate towards him. Everybody loves him, and that's not a surprise. But it's the demeanor that Nick Chubb has had this offseason and through training camp, OTAs, mini camp, when he's out there, when you see him. He's always a running joke, right? That Nick Chubb doesn't smile.
Mm-hmm.
He he's a robot. He just is football and nothing else. I have seen Nick Chubb smile more times this offseason than any season combined, at any given moment of any season combined, that I've seen Nick Chubb with the Cleveland Browns. He is all smiles all the time here. And I think that his demeanor and how he is feeling about this season, about himself, and how he's embraced rehab and the excitement of him to return, that is such a game changer. That is momentum that the team can feed on, that the fans, you should see these videos. Just watch him. Look at them and know that it's not just a moment that you're catching him smiling. This is a lot. This is all the time. He was smiling in an interview in our News 5 pregame broadcast. in an interview. He doesn't like to do interviews. He doesn't like to do media. That's
That
not
was
his
like the
favorite
Kevin
thing.
Hart meme when he smiled there because it's like he realized he was like, you know, that Kevin Hart joke where he's like, thugs don't laugh. And he's
Yep.
like, hey, get the fuck out of here.
Oh,
Like that's kind of what like it looks like on there. But yeah, you're
mhm.
right. He does have a lighter demeanor. Like I think he probably appreciates being back around football again. And he's just kind of enjoying that. And I think his teammates appreciate that about Nick Chubb. And I think that's going to be a huge deal for this team because it's one thing when like, oh man, our friend's back in the building. He's not going to play, but he's back in the building. That gives you a boost because you're happy to come to work and you're excited about it. But when it's, oh man, is Nick Chubb putting on pat? Like if we get to week 6, week 7, and like Nick Chubb's like practicing, all of a sudden the giddy up on that offensive line gonna get a little different, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe you might be going through a little bit of a lull. But oh, hey, Nick Chubb come back. Okay, we got our second win, right? Like I think that allows you to get your second win of energy because like seasons are long and you need energy. Like you need these things to burst the energy throughout what is a 4-month endeavor. You hope to get all the way till February, and I think Nick Chubb coming back mid-season, maybe early part of the early second quarter of the season, I think is what they're officially aiming for because he's on pup. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there with Nick Chubb. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, huge topic of conversation. But Cam, thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving me the time here. Appreciate you. Make sure that you check Cam out. And be nice to her when she posts those high quality clips of Cam. I see people. I'm like, yo, why are they?
Man,
Why are they me? Everybody else is like standing back there with their phone zoomed all the way out. You can't see anything. And then you get these Cam clips, and they're all zoomed in. If you're like, well, it's kind of shaky. like,
I'm
like,
I'm not kidding. I was this close. I was this close. I was like, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop putting because here's my thing, and I'll put it here because I know people do watch you a lot. Get in the training camp. They're like, thank you. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. It's not my show, but I appreciate that. So I got to tell you, like, people love your show, and they let me know when fans are open to training camp. But I want it to be known on this platform. I was this close to stopping because I don't post highlight reels. I post recaps. I show you what happened. I'm trying to give you guys a summary. I'm trying to let you guys get a glimpse into camp. I want you to
uh,
have the full experience. You're not going to get all catches. You're not going to get all touchdowns. You're going to get some missed passes. You're going to get some drops. You're going to get some sacks. Like that is the reality of
people
this.
are so used to biased material that they were like, oh man, this isn't a highlight reel. How biased you can.
Yeah,
Like,
they were like,
she literally went into Adobe and sorted by like time of recording, and
it's
that's just how the clips came out.
put them in order. If Deshaun Watson throws an incomplete pass on his first attempt in 7-on-7s, that is not on me to edit out. I'm so sorry. He'll make a completion. Just wait for it. He'll get it. He's
It's
not
a
going to complete
3-minute
everything.
video. Like there's like a
It's a
bunch of
3 minute.
completions.
Listen, I know you got me hot on that one. I was crazy. I'm like fighting for my life in the comments, and then like no one's
Oh
like
my
then people
goodness.
like people like teaming up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're terrible. Media is terrible." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. You know what? I can't win. I don't think I can win." And then a lot more people were like, "Thank you for posting these. I appreciate it." But I was very close. I was like, "You know what? Is it even worth it? Like, is it worth the grief that I'm getting in the quote tweets and the comments? Like, this is crazy. It was crazy." But I will continue to post and just know that these players are not perfect and they will not make every pass. They will not make every play. And you get to see it. It's the same as game day. You're not seeing 100% completion rates on a game
Mm-hmm.
day. It's the same as practice. Relax, guys. And that is me walking off of my soapbox. Thank you for giving me that platform to
Oh,
vent.
no problem. I saw that. I was like, wow, they wilding over that. That's crazy. They lucky it's not me. Like, 'cause I'd have been
I'm
like, all
bullied
right,
on the
no
internet.
more. No more.
I'm
Y'all
getting
get
bullied on
nothing.
Twitter.
What are you
Unreal.
talking about? Like, just it. Sometimes I think I like to remind people this Watson thing is not going to get more sane because it's a quarterback. Like, it did not get more sane as it went on with Baker Mayfield. It is not going to get more sane and I have made the point. especially if Watson plays well. It's not going to be more because so many people have dug into like he's trash, he's done. That like if he puts together 4 good games, it's going to be some weird takes out there where people ain't ready to like let go of it. It's going to be something. No matter what he does out there, it's going to be a weird environment because I have just learned that people are weird about quarterbacks now. Like it's not even like it could be DTR. Like there are diehard DTR stands. I saw a diehard Tyler Huntley guy. Like we have lost all of our control to be normal about quarterbacks as a fan base, not just Browns. I'm talking to NFL fans have lost. We have taken all of these ironic jokes about like Mike White, and like there are now people who are like, no, Mike White's actually the best. Like there's no, we've lost it. We've lost the plot when it comes to quarterback.
We lost the plot.
The plot is gone. It's gone. It's gone, dog. I have seen weird takes about Pat Mahomes. Nobody is immune to it. It's just gonna be weird. There is no paradise where it's like, oh yeah, well it's gonna be quite normal with our quarterback discourse. You just got to time travel to like 2005 if you want normal discourse about a quarterback. And even then, it ain't normal. It's just not as frequent. Like, we have lost all ability to do this. I fully believe.
Take a deep breath. You just gotta take a deep breath and get through it because it will get weird.
I saw DTR stands going at it with Tyler Huntley stands, and then a PJ Walker stand came in there. I'm like, how did these 3 fandoms exist? How is this a war that is going on right now? Like, we are dangerously close to people buying 3rd-string quarterback jerseys, and I'm just going to tell you, that's not an America I want to live in. I draw the line.
This is it.
I draw the line at that. No, okay, we will not do that. But yeah, it's gotten weird, and I've just reserved myself to say, it's weird. I'm just gonna try to find people who are coming to good faith, and then everybody else, I'm going to treat you how I would treat you in real life, which is to say, there's a lot of people who say crazy stuff to you downtown. You don't pay them any attention, right? Like sometimes you just gotta remind yourself that if this were real life, this would be the dude standing outside the Guardians game, yelling something that you just go walk right past
them. Down and just like, okay, all right.
You can walk right past them. The same way when you at Walmart or Target and them salespeople for the phone people, whenever you walk past electronics trying to get your attention, you walk past it. You just got to do the same. We got to have a button like that on social media to be like, all right, okay, head down, walk away from this conversation. Because oh my goodness, we be engaging with all this stuff, and I'll be like, these people don't need to be engaged with. They don't have a point. Like you engage with people who have a point. Like,
and yeah, you just gotta let him. Let him talk into the point.
Mm-hmm. And you don't know what the context of these comments are, right? That's why. We going on a soapbox, and maybe this is a super millennial soapbox that we've gone on, and we're like the Gen Z in the audience gonna think we're super old for saying this, but I'm telling you, we have lost all the benefit of talking about things in person because you get the context. If somebody is drunk in my comment section and says something wild, I have no other choice but to take that at face value because I don't know. I don't know if that is a 10-year-old who just learned about football like 5 months ago saying something wild about. I have no clue if that is the case. When I see some of this, like this could be a 45-year-old man who's coached 2 football teams and saying something very bad, or this could be a 10-year-old kid who just don't know. We don't have the context. If this were real life, I'd be able to handle these situations appropriately. But since all I got is text and a profile picture to go off of, it ain't even worth it. It ain't even worth it.
You're shifting a little bit. I'm here for it 100%. You are shifting a little bit more boomer right now, though. So
Hey, they not wrong about everything.
They're not wrong about everything. They told us what social media was going to be. They told us, and here we are. And now we're like, oh no.
Yeah,
You're right.
I feel like Gen Alpha gonna be like, man, we not smoking them cigarettes. Like, cause millennials are the generation that did not smoke the cigarettes, right? Like everybody else got, I think with Gen Z really into them vapes, right?
Vapes.
Like
Oh yeah, big vapes.
we've avoided it. Like the most we dabbled in was like 2012 hookah in college, right? Like we didn't really get into it as deep as they did, and we didn't even know hookah was tobacco. Like most of us thought it was water vapor because that's what they told
Oh,
me.
it's good. It smells.
Yeah, it's just watermelon. Like, okay, cool. Nobody told me, but it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, it might make me sound old, and I get it, but think about all the things we are losing when we have these conversations via text or anonymous internet. Like, I have this argument with people on Twitter all the time because I block heavy. I don't care. I don't care if you know. I'll block. Like, Cam, how many people got your phone number? Not
Not more than I would like, but not. I avoid it. I
yeah,
avoid it.
yeah. Like, you don't need 12. I have 14,000 followers on Twitter. That's like 14K people having my phone number. Nah, some of y'all just don't need to talk to me. Like I see people tweet stuff all the time where I'm like, you don't need to know I exist. Like I'm good on that, bro. Like I don't ever need to get this man's attention. Like,
I don't block people, but the mute button is my best friend. Like if you say something out of pocket to me, I want you to be able to see the things that I have, but I will not see what you say. I won't.
I
I won't. I'm not here for it. Like if you're gonna come at me crazy, bless your heart, and I
I
hope you have
understand
this great time. But
why you
I
only
am not hearing it.
I understand
I
why you
can't
only
block.
mute because you
Yeah.
can't. You have to get information
Yeah.
out to people. But I don't break news. I don't tell nobody what's going on. I just tell you how I feel about it. So I'm just
That's
like, nah,
fair.
dog. Don't everybody got to
Yeah.
know. That
Yeah.
I don't need somebody to retweet me, and then some dude finds out I exist, and now this dude is a reply guy in my tweets, like mad at me for the rest of my life because I said Denzel Ward was better than his favorite corner or something wild like that. Like I'm good. Like we just don't need to have this level of interaction with everybody. Like it was better when we just couldn't talk to everybody on like this. Like, you know, check on what people saying, know what people saying. But you know, back in the day, I used to listen to 3D. I never tweeted Gerard Cherry. Why would I do that? Like, you know, and now it's a good thing because when I run into Gerard Cherry, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to. I don't have a whole relationship because I got an argument with this dude on Twitter about something.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Look at our soapboxes. Look at us on
yeah,
our soapboxes.
yeah. Look. This is
Gotta stick to
millennial.
it.
This is the millennial part of it. Like, it was better when it was only Facebook. They had something going because it was a closed community. You had your top friends, and that was it. There was really no way to reach out. But once Facebook blew up, that was the end of it all because now everybody is connected. And then it only got worse because Twitter was a more open version of Facebook. And then Instagram is just a photo version of Facebook that's more open, and it got open and open, and now it's to the point where like if you block somebody, people are like, oh well, you shouldn't be blocking people, and it's like, nah, I'm pro block.
Yeah,
Like
block. You block away. I will never fault anyone. You know, people have me blocked because I don't block them. They don't. They just don't want to see my stuff, and that's fine. Block me, but I won't do it. I'll mute you. But that's how I get away with. That's my alternative. But I absolutely utilize the not listening to people because
because let me tell you, when people was out there going crazy at you about these that clip thing, I was like, cool, y'all came out, and I was like, block. I don't even got to interact with you. I'm like, you just out here talking crazy. You're not about to talk crazy to me. I'm not about to deal with this. I'm not about to have Twitter ruin my day.
Find me soon. I gotta prevent that from finding. I'm
only on here to tweet memes. Memes, jokes, and every once in a while, very serious opinion. But like that's all I'm really here for. You know, I'm not here for the arguments. That miss me with that. Like I talk to who I want to talk to. I kind of want to feature them when the only people who can really interact with me is the people I follow back.
That's the way to do it.
Like, but you can't do that one. The stigma is not clear on that one. But oh boy, let me tell you, if it ever does get clear. But Cam, thank you for coming on. If you stayed for the rant down below, appreciate you because you probably was like, yeah, they all to something, you know. Maybe I just got an older audience. Maybe I'm older than what I feel like I am. But y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Cam, is there anything else you want to promote before we went off there?
Keep watching News 5. We've got some specials coming up before the regular season. And of course, when we get into the regular season, we got some really cool stuff. Some segments coming back and some new ones on the horizon. So just keep your eye out. Make sure you're watching.
All right, all right. I need you to ask DeJuan Jones how much he bench press because I'm very interested to see what that because he has such long arms that I could not
I'll give you
imagine
that
he
answer.
benches over like 400, right? Like that's where my bet is. He can't go over 400. If he goes over 400, he's an absolute monster.
Your line's at 400. I will find out. And the next time we talk, I will let you know.
All right, all right. Thank you for that. Cam, you have a great day. Everybody else have an even better night. Peace.